All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Geopolitics in Conflict Show. Very, very excited to be with you today because we have a guest that you guys been asking about. You just didn't know who. So it's none other than Gerald Celente. He's back on the show, and we are very, very excited to have him here. So just for those who might be for the first time joining us here and you don't know about Gerald, let me just share something briefly with you here. Of course, we're going to have the full bio in the description. Gerald is the founder and the creator of the Trends Journals, which, by the way, is something we highly recommend that you guys check it out. We are subscribers in it. We read it regularly. It's something you want to check that out. So, also, there is something you do not know about Gerald. Did you guys know he was the one who predicted the stock market crash in 1987?
Yep.
No. Second thing, he has also sort of predicted the dot-com bust. No. A lot of people. And there is something else which we will address today with you guys. Has to do with the gold.
Yes.
Well,
very interesting.
Gerald Celente has predicted about the gold bull run back then.
Very interesting.
So,
and I will tell you guys, one of my favorite things about Gerald is that he looks at what's really going on in the economics of what's happening geopolitically. So, the rest of the world sort of sees what's happening on the edge, where it's like, oh, I see this in the news and I don't really understand it. Gerald takes a really deep dive into what economics is actually causing this, what history is actually causing what's going on. And so I really appreciate that about Gerald, because not very many people really understand that everything that happens globally is driven by economics. It's driven by economics. So welcome, Gerald.
all right. Good to see you, Gerald.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it, and thank you for the kind words. We also took out the domain name, the Panic of '08, back in 2007. We saw that coming as well. And you mentioned one of our top trends for 2024 that came out on January 2nd was a golden year for gold. And gold is up over $240 since we said that. But, we don't get it right all the time. First of all, we're human beings, so you mess up all the time. But you never know what the game is going to be played. For example, I thought things would crash in 2012. They didn't teach me about quantitative easing or negative and zero interest rate policy in economics 101 or graduate school. So they'll make up anything, so you can't, we always make it clear we're not futurists. No one could predict the future. There are too many wild cards, whether they're made by humans or nature.
Yeah, but you're still on, Gerald, on your predictions, the ones before. I mean, it was very, very interesting. And here is one thing I'd like to start with, if you allow me here. I'm going to share on the screen the Trends Journal for the top trends for 2024. I'd like to have your input on that. Where do you see the year going moving forward? Economically, financially, militarily, politically?
One of my sayings is, when all else fails, they take you to war.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't have to believe me. What followed the Great Depression? World War II.
Indeed.
Yep.
Google up Franklin Roosevelt seizes Japanese assets. Just put that in there.
Mm-hmm.
History Today will come up. Mainstream media. In July 1941, President Franklin Roosevelt seized all Japanese assets. How come? Those dirty Japanese invaded French Indochina. Wait a minute. First of all, I'm an American. What do I care about the Japanese and French Indochina? And number two, what are the French doing over in Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos? Oh, we're the French. We're colonists. We're stealing, raping, robbing, pillaging everything we could get. We need that tin and rubber. Oh, then the United Kingdom. Oh, the sun never sets on the British Empire. Yeah. The country that slaughters and steals for centuries. Oh, them. Oh, yeah. Why, those dirty Japanese, they were only very close to Shanghai, where the British had naval forces and were occupying it. And the Dutch were in Indonesia. And they didn't like what they were doing either. So the United States, the Dutch, and the Americans put sanctions on Russia, on Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, different, same thing, different story. Put sanctions on Ukraine, put sanctions on Japan.
Yeah.
And they cut off 2/3 of their global trade and 88% of their imported oil. Wait a minute. Japan imports 100% of their oil. So they had 12% of their oil left? That's right. Can't understand why they bombed Pearl Harbor. Hey, what followed the dot-com bust? The war on terror.
Yep.
Everybody forgot the terrible recession, how people couldn't stand that little Georgie Bush, that daddy's boy born on third base and thought he had a home run. Oh, we're going to get that guy Osama bin Laden, dead or alive.
Yeah.
88% of American people swallowed the crap. Going back to what's going on now, the Ukraine war, the Middle East war, this thing is exploding.
Mm-hmm.
If this keeps going, forget about this is going to here again. All things are connected in trends research. Let's go back to Israel bombed the consulate in Syria, in Damascus, and killed some top commanders. And oil prices have been going up as we said they would keep going up. If this escalates into the Middle East, and Brent crude, which is now trading around $90 a barrel, was down to 73 a couple of months ago. If this thing hits $130 a barrel, it's going to crash the global economy and the equity markets because they're all artificially propped up. And this is going to bring down the prop.
Is this, I was going to say quickly, is this, Gerald, why now we're hearing about the upcoming trip of Janet Yellen to China? Is it to borrow more money?
America is at war with China. Now it's a trade war. And again, they caused this situation on their own. Once upon a time, when I was a young guy, they used to have manufacturing plants in America. Mm-hmm. Now, 11% of our GDP is through manufacturing. One president after another, particularly Bill Clinton, had China join the World Trade Organization. And hey, we're going to get our stuff made over there with that cheap labor. We'll make more money. Why should we pay Americans to make this stuff? Screw the middle class. We got to make more dough. Wow. So they've destroyed the economy in America. That's over almost 70% of America's economy is consumer based.
Yep. So
they're going to China and trying to now, again, right or wrong, good or bad. We're not saying what whether that is, but the fact is they're going to do everything they can to stop China from exporting more product. Matter of fact, America's trade deficit just came in, and it's way up there again. So they're going to do everything they can to stop China, and China has its own problems. It was overbuilt. When they got into the World Trade Organization, their GDP shot up. And when you have all these booms, they're always overbuilt. And then by 3 years of zero COVID policy, locking the joint down for 3 years, they destroyed the lives and livelihoods of hundreds of millions. Yeah. So they have their own problems over there. But China's going to become more self-sufficient. They got 1.4 billion people. It's going to be more and more now made in China, made in China, made in China. Yeah. And the same thing's happening in Russia. When they put all the sanctions on Russia, look at Russia's GDP. All those companies that left, Russian companies took over. So they're going to become more self-sufficient. But they have a real estate issue that's going to cause some real problems.
Mm-hmm. Well, so I'd actually like to dive into China for a second and their economy, because one of the things that we're hearing pretty regularly is, well, China's economy is slowing down. China is about to crater. Their economy is about to crater. And honestly, I don't buy that. Not for 1 second do I think China is about to fail as an economy with 1.4 billion people and the amount of infrastructure that they've built up. Especially, I remember, I guess this was maybe about a year ago, where there's a big conversation about decoupling from China, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to decouple from China. And then all of a sudden that conversation went away because they realized we, the United States, cannot decouple from China. So I'm interested in your take in China's economy going forward, especially considering what the narrative is here in the West about China's economy.
We have said for a long time that the 20th century was the American century. But the business of America is war, and the business of China is business. So the 21st century is going to be the Chinese century.
Yeah.
As I said, they were doing great, but their 3 years of zero COVID policy has made a bad situation much worse in the real estate sector, because when you look at the GDP numbers, depending on whose data you're looking at, between 25 to 30% of China's GDP is real estate related.
Yeah.
So this is going to bring it down for a while, but not long term. Again, with the China's, the Silk and Road Initiative, and they're while America builds about 1,000 military bases in some 80 countries, China's building roads, bridges, factories,
airports.
So, exactly. So the longer term and again, I mentioned self-sustaining. That's one of our top trends. Yeah. China has many of the human and natural resources it needs to be self-sufficient, as does Russia. And nations that can do it, that become more self-sufficient, are going to rely less on globalization. Yeah, the manufacturers will need it, but the country will build. Again, you got 1.4 million. Here in the United States, what do you got, 332 million?
Yep.
I mean, so the numbers, just look at the numbers. I mean, you put all of Europe together, it's about a half the size of China.
Yeah.
Or less. So China's going to become more self-sufficient, and they're going to keep spreading out into other nations that are developing. So the longer term, again, once upon a time, there was a guy that was the president of the United States, 2 terms. His name was Dwight D. Eisenhower, 5-star general, supreme commander of the Allied forces, and again, 2-term president. He warns the American people that the military-industrial complex is robbing the nation of the genius of the scientists and the sweat of the laborers.
Yeah.
Here we are. 63% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. The bigs own everything. So it's slave landing. Going back to China, again, they're going to have a down point, but the long term is up. There's no question about it.
And this is something I remember it was addressed in one of the Trends Journal. I'm showing the picture here where you talked about the next recession way back. I addressed it because I remember reading part of that at that time. And this ties now to the issue that we have here with the national debt. That is going up, 34? The last one I looked at was 34.8.
Yeah.
With an additional $1 trillion every 100 years or so.
Well, and no end in sight.
Yeah.
Right. There's absolutely no end in sight. And there is it seems like no political will to stop that spending.
So where do you see that going, Gerald? I mean, moving forward, we can't be living like this forever.
Well, you said political will. How about moronic, stupid little jerks will?
Yeah.
How about lying, losing freaks will? How about imbecile, arrogant, narcissistic freaks will?
Narcissistic is a great word. the narcissism is unbelievable. To enter office. So you brought up Bill Clinton earlier. Bill Clinton entered office. I think he was worth maybe $10 million. When he left office, he was worth a couple $100 million. If that's not narcissism, I'm not sure what is.
And how did he generate that?
And how did he get the $200 million after 8 years?
Corruption. How did he generate it? Again, I'll answer go back to the other question, but how did he generate it? Yeah. I'm going to do away with that law that prohibited drug dealers, big pharma from advertising on TV in 1997. And we're going to do away with the Federal Communications Act. We're going to pass all the big companies now could own all of the media. We're changing all the laws, putting everybody else out of business. Take that Glass-Steagall Act and shove it. Why do you think they pay an arrogant little clown boy like Bill Clinton $350,000 and his wife Hillary to BS in front of the Goldman Sachs gang? You can hear BS for free. It's called payback. And it's very little money compared to what the bigs make. I was the assistant to the Secretary of the New York State Senate at 26 years old. I used to run and work on major campaigns in Westchester County, which is the richest county in America, in New York. Mm-hmm. I was on the other side. I saw what it's like. I wouldn't know what I know if I wasn't on the other side. Mm-hmm. So it's a crime syndicate. Yeah, we're going to run for president. Oh, hey, Bill Clinton just had and Obama went over there to see B.S. Biden. And again, Trump, to me, it's Donald Duck against Mickey Mouse. So I'm not taking a side. They just raised $26 million. Who could run for office? Oh, America that kills people all over the world in the name of freedom and democracy? You got to have a lot of dough to run for anything. And the only way you run is to get paid off by the gangs that are in charge.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, the question you were going to ask.
No, it's all right. That's all right, Gerald. It's because it's the truth, man. And this is what most Americans do not.
Oh, about the debt.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. The debt level is increasing $1 trillion every 100 days. Mm-hmm. The death of the dollar is before our eyes. America has become the country that our founding fathers fought against. Great Britain, where the sun never set on the British Empire. It was one war after another war after another war. And then World War I, the end of the British Empire. Yep. They lose the pound because of all the money they wasted on war. And the dollar took over. America's become that country. What do we got? Again, I just mentioned to you what Eisenhower said. What are we spending when you put the intelligence, which is an oxymoron for the name of the CIA, NSA, and nothing intelligent about them. You put that number in there, you're looking about $1.3 trillion a year on defense budgets.
Wow.
Yeah. And you were talking about almost a $35 trillion debt level. Who could keep doing this? So rather than putting that money into America could become a self-sustaining nation. We have all the natural and human resources we need. No, you don't. The military-industrial complex is in charge. The banks, the bandits are in charge. Big tech is in charge. And the drug dealer, big pharma is in charge. So going back, when they lower interest rates, you're going to see the death of the dollar. And it goes back to the debt level as well. The only reason the dollar is strong is because interest rates are high. And the lower the dollar goes, the higher gold prices rise. Gold could very easily be in the $3,000 range this year. But again, as I said, the game is rigged by the facts.
Yeah.
There's this company out there, big bankster, one of the biggest, I think, in America, convicted of 5 felonies. Hey, I'm JP Morgan Chase. 5 felonies. Oh, one of the felonies, 2019, They paid the grand total only $900 million for rigging the precious metals market.
Wow.
It's a
Wow.
fact. And
Yeah.
by the way, for people who want good information on the bankster bandits, the best site to go to is called Wall Street on Parade by Pam and Russ Martins. They have great articles. I mean, I have one right in front of me over here. This just came out.
Yeah.
Study finds Wall Street mega banks have overstated income for years on commercial real estate loans. I mean, nobody's talking about this. Nobody's talking about this. And now for commercial real estate loans, let's put it together. Oh, commercial real estate? Again, go back to the COVID war. Tracking trends is the understanding of where we are, how we got here to see where we're going. I'm your politician. I'm locking down your state. Go home. You can't go to work. Okay. Now people are staying home week after week, month after month, year after year. And they're saying to themselves, I'm getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to commute an hour and a half each way. I hate it. It's costing me all this money. I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm the guy that has all these people in little cubicles that I never see. And I got 10 floors. Yeah, I only need 4 floors. Yeah, stay home a couple of. We are going to have an office building bust that's going to bring down the banking system like we've never seen before. But don't talk about it. Not allowed to talk about it. Here's the deal. The office vacancy rate, meaning nobody in them in New York City, is 23%.
Wow.
Take a trip to Portland, 29%. Depending on whose data you look at San Francisco, between 25 and 30% vacant. Nobody there. Now let's go to the office occupancy rate. How many people are going back to work? According to Castle Systems with a K, 51% of the people have gone back to work occupancy rate. Now you look at all the businesses that depended on commuters. And now we got to go back again to the office buildings. How am I going to pay? If you own the office buildings, how are you going to pay your debt? Oh, there's $2 trillion worth of debt coming up in the next year and a half.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And now these are floating loans. Interest rates are much higher than when they bought these buildings.
Yeah.
And you got a lot less money coming in. Here, not my data, the data out, 282 banks in America, they have issued warnings to because of the commercial real estate debt load.
Yeah.
Now let's go back to last year around this time. Silicon Valley Bank goes bust. Followed by what? First Republic and Signature. Oh my God, look what happened to gold prices in the markets. Markets went down, gold prices. That was 3 banks. This is going to be a banking crisis. Again, this is beyond, it's on, they're not going to be, and then when all of that cheap money was dumped into the system to fight the COVID war, we'll make up anything. Here's trillions of dollars. The banks had all this dough and they bought up these bonds at the treasuries that are worth nothing now. So they're not going to be able to take care of the losses. There's going to be a banking crisis.
Wow.
Well, and who's going to bail out the banks? I mean, at this point, is it money printing? Is it QE that's going to, how are the banks going to be bailed out? Because I highly doubt the government's going to let them fail.
Well, they're going to, and that's going to, create an artificial inflationary cycle. Look what happened again, not my data, the data from Bard College, the Levy Institute at Bard College. The banksters, the Federal Reserve, pumped in $29 trillion into the banksters between 2007 and 2011.
Jeez.
Wow.
29 trillion.
Wow.
Again, here. Who is the Treasury Secretary? Janet Yellen.
Yeah.
Italian is faccia brut. And you go to, where was her last job? Oh, she was the head of the Federal Reserve.
Wait
Wait a minute. the head of the Federal Reserve is now the Treasury Secretary.
Separation of church and state, though, obviously.
You see who's running the country?
Yeah.
I'll tell you a quick story. You have a photo. There was a guy by the name of John Connolly, and this goes back to the banking system. John Connolly was the governor of Texas that took the bullet in the back sitting in front of JFK. I have a photograph of me, him, and his wife, Nellie, their first time back in 1992, because he wanted to meet me, because one of my books is called Trend Tracking. I wrote in 89, far better than Megatrends Time magazine, and I'd forecast a new third party and someone like Ross Perot. And he wanted to meet me. This is 2 weeks before the 92 election. I have a photograph of me, him, and his wife, Nellie, in front of the book depository where Kennedy allegedly got shot from. They were first time back, by the way, since the assassination. And we're going back, and he told the story what happened that day. We go back into the Anatole Hotel. We drive back. And he said to me, I read your book. He says, remember, this is the guy that took the bullet in the back sitting in front of Kennedy. This is the guy that almost died. He said, I read your book. He said, it's a fine piece of work. And he said, I know your heart's in the right place. He said, but people don't have a clue what's going on.
What's going on?
American
Oh,
people.
yeah.
He said, because if they did, there'd be a revolution in this country. This is 1992. All right. 1971. Remember, John Connolly is the Democratic governor of Texas in 1963. Fast forward to 1971. He's the Treasury Secretary under the Republican Richard Nixon that took us off the gold standard.
Wow.
As I said, it's all connected. He said, if people knew what was going on in this country, there'd be a revolution. Now let's go back to taking us off the gold standard. I remember the days when inflation was skyrocketing as a young guy. How come it went up? They never talk about it. The Vietnam War. They artificially pumped all this money into the Vietnam War and kept it going. That's what drove the inflation up. Now let's go back. And as I said, when all else fails, they take you to war. There's no way. You look at the polls, you look at the data. People don't want Trump. They don't want Biden.
Yeah.
So now they are going to do everything we believe. Again, I mentioned what happened with the .com bust, that 88% of the people believe the little jerky, nobody, lying little freak like George W. Bush. We're going to get Osama bin Laden dead or alive.
Yep.
They're going to do the same thing with Biden. There'll be a false flag event. Something will happen where oh my God, look what they did. That's my major concern.
You know, it's very interesting because the amount of talk right now about how 9/11 happened is very, very different. Because at the time, you know, if you remember at the time, if you said anything against what they were about to do, you know, it was like blasphemy and you were basically cancel cultured, right? Even back then, I remember the Dixie Chicks spoke out and they were canceled. But right now there really is a sentiment changing in my generation and younger, where we really don't believe what's going on. And I have a lot of faith in that. And it was interesting because, you know, the Boeing whistleblower committed suicide, right? He committed suicide, and then collectively the world went, no, he didn't.
No, he didn't.
No, he didn't. He didn't commit suicide. Don't even try and push that on me. And so, you know, are you seeing in the trends, are you seeing a little bit of a difference, a little bit of an awakening of people that things are not what they seem, and people are very much more interested in what's actually going on in the world?
They're not interested in what's going on in the world. Yeah, and by the way, I can't talk anymore because I feel offended. We haven't mentioned a word about Taylor Swift.
I to be honest, I don't know much about Taylor Swift.
I'm only kidding. It was a joke. It was a joke. That's where the people's minds are.
Gerald,
people don't have a clue what's going on.
Gerald, I heard a crazy statistic the other day that I hope to God is not true. I heard a statistic that said 40% of Americans would vote for the same candidate that Taylor Swift was voting for.
That's what I'm saying.
I hope that's not true.
But the other point that you made, yes, the people are aggravated.
Mm-hmm.
And if there was a new political party, a party for the people, they'd win like that. They'd win like that. But you have to have a separate party. It's a crime syndicate in charge. By their deeds, you shall know them. I mentioned, we were talking before about the $29 trillion that the banksters got bailed out for causing the Great Recession. Hey, you don't have a job? You got no money? You want to buy a house here? Sign over here.
Yeah. Subprime
mortgages.
Yeah.
It's a crime. Murderers and thieves. What's your favorite war? We're going to, again, Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction and ties to Al Qaeda. We can make up any lie we want. I want to get that guy Gaddafi out of there. They're murderers and thieves. We need a new system. Absent of that, ain't going to happen.
I agree with that. I have a question about oil. Do you want to ask?
Yeah, go ahead. No, you
first?
go ahead.
Okay.
I have my question for Gerald after you do that.
All right. So one of the most interesting things I think that's happening right now is we have some real oil instability coming up.
Okay.
We have the potential for instability in the Middle East, depending on what Israel does, whether that turns into a larger conflict in the Middle East. And then we also have the oil instability that Ukraine is picking at in Russia by attacking their refineries, basically. And so I'm interested in what you see, because oil is tied to just about everything we do, because he or she who has the oil is who has the power and who has the money, right? So I'm interested in if you see a larger instability coming and what effect that will have, if it does come, on basically the day-to-day life of Americans.
Look at the oil prices again already. They've gone up, they're the highest since October.
Yeah.
And moving
Not
above
fun.
that. And so the average person, again, they're struggling already. So they see their life with as they're pumping gas. So going back to what's going to happen, it not only has Ukraine bombed Russian oil installations, and remember the Nord Stream pipeline. We'll forget about that when we talk about that. Yeah, and then it's also Israel bombing Iranian oil facilities.
Yep.
Which they've done 3 of them. Now, we put the bigger picture together here. What just happened there, the outrage against the Israel war keeps growing and growing and growing. And now with the latest slaughter of those innocent people that were delivering food, that's ramped up. Let's go back to 1973-74 with this, was it the 7-day war, whatever many day war it was back then with Israel, when they had the war back then. And the Arab countries put an oil embargo on. Oil prices spiked. Inflation skyrocketed. Again, I was a young guy, and you had to wait online to get gas. Yes. You couldn't get any. That's a reality that can happen on that end. Number 2 and number 3, yes, they're going to keep ramping up the Ukraine war. And don't listen to me. Listen to that arrogant little boy playing, was it the NATO general secretary, general piece of crap Stoltenberg.
Oh, yeah.
Listen to one after another how they're going to keep. You had that little Catson Macron with the fake kid and a little nothing of a clown boy over there in France. We're going to put NATO troops, and we could send 20,000 of our troops. They're going to ramp up the war. And they're going to ramp up. Israel is going to keep ramping up this war. And now, not my words, but the words from the head over there of Israel, Iran, saying we're going to attack you.
Yeah.
And look here, America said for Iran not to do that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
This is the hypocrisy. What was it? 3 people, 2 or 3 or 4 people were killed when one of these groups blew them up on a border between Syria and Jordan.
Mhm.
And what did the United States do? Bombs away over, we're going to get revenge. Bombs away over Syria and Iraq. Like
Yeah.
65 bombs or something for
Yeah.
killing 3 Americans that had probably no business being there in the first place. Americans illegally in Syria. Well, we're stealing their oil. I forgot, in eastern Syria. You think we'd be there? You think we, as I said, you think we would have invaded Iraq if their major export was broccoli?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No way.
No way.
So going back, the oil crisis is, we've been warning about this now for over a year. To watch oil prices and the reality of what is going to happen. It's in front of everybody's eyes for all to see. This war, and by the way, there's another thing, not my language. It's called the Samson option. Do you know what that is?
No, what is
What
it?
is that?
Samson option, this is from Israel, that if they're going to be losing, they're going nuclear. They have
Oh,
between
no.
200 to 400 nuclear warheads. And there is no way in the world, other than going nuclear, that Israel, with what do they have? 7, 8, 10 million people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
Is going to
They're
beat
very small.
Iran. Iran is a very sophisticated society,
Right.
very scientifically advanced. They are not dumbbells.
Yeah.
And they are fighters.
Yep.
They're not going to, if this war breaks out between Israel and Iran, bye-bye. Say goodbye to life on Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it had, man, cooler heads had really better prevail. And it's interesting. It's interesting listening to the narrative because it really is a deeply unpopular conflict here.
Well, that's what
Deeply
I
unpopular.
remember discussing when I wrote the book about Iran, in detailing that, Israel will have to be very careful because Iran now is in possession to really shower all major cities in Israel, where the problem with all this that I see is that the US will be dragged into. And if the US gets into, we're looking at not only a regional, it's going to become a global, and we all know what it means. It's like what you said, Gerald. When everything else failed, they take you to war.
Right.
So it's going to become, and that, let alone for how conditions are here in the U.S. economically,
so bad.
Being involved in another conflict in the Middle East, which they are endless, it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So.
There's once upon a time, there was a guy that was the president of the United States by the name of George Washington. A real man that fought, not like these little boys that couldn't fight their way out of a paper bag.
Yeah.
And his farewell address, he warns the American people. I tell everybody you should read this thing, not to get involved in any foreign entanglements. He said, basically, this crap has been going on for centuries. It's not our involvement. And you should not love a nation or hate a nation, because if you do to either one, you become a slave to those nations.
Yeah.
And then the morons and imbeciles say, well, you're an isolationist. Yeah, get the hell out of here. Who you talking?
No.
I'm not an isolation. I'm an American. I want to protect my homeland.
Well, and
I'm not sure what goes on. What's going on between Russia and Ukraine? What did it go? Go back to Catherine the Great?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, a lot of us Americans
and
here.
Going back onto the economics section and talking about the banksters. It's been going on for how long? Over 2,000 years. That was the cover of the Trends Journal back in 2011.
That's funny.
Yeah, nothing's changed.
Yeah.
It's just different cats dressed differently.
Yep.
Very
That's a really funny picture.
Yeah. Actually, I did see on when I looked at the other pictures that they have there. It's very, very interesting. So I want to go back quickly here, Gerald, if I may, to you. When you mentioned gold, about going up to $3,000 this year, the possibility of it. I know it is right now at about 2,300 plus an ounce. Is this why now, which is, by the way, it's happening quietly, that other countries are taking their gold out of the US
Yeah.
quietly.
Yeah.
Of course, the government is not going to disclose this one, but
No.
are they seeing that what you are talking about, that the dollar is going to go down soon?
Absolutely. And the geopolitical conflict. And again, the people feel it. And again, we talk about the Chinese economy, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about how the Chinese people feel. Since the beginning of the year, gold purchases in the retail sector in China have gone up 24%.
It's a lot.
Wow.
Yeah. So the people feel the danger there. And China is the biggest buyer of gold, according to the World Gold Council this year. And we're going to see another record year by the end of the year. They're going to do everything they can, though, to bring down gold prices. They don't, because it becomes evident to the people of how bad things are. And again, if there was no Bitcoin, gold prices would be much higher, because you take countries like Argentina, where you have inflation at 250% or something.
Yeah.
So the people see their currencies, fall to crap in front of them. They say, I don't want to keep this money. What can I do? They don't have enough dough to buy gold, but they could buy a fraction of a Bitcoin.
Yeah.
That's what's driving those prices up. So the people feel the danger, and it's not only economic.
Yeah.
It's geopolitical. Yeah. Let's go back to Iran. I became a trend forecaster when the Iranian conflict began in the late 70s. And Jimmy Carter came back from spending New Year's Eve with the Shah and his wife. And he told the American people that the Shah was the island of stability in the Middle East. In the Bronx, we used to have a saying, bullshit has its own sound.
It's true.
I'm watching millions of people going, they had enough of this thing. Love or whatever went on. People had no idea the overthrow of Mossadegh in 50. None of this stuff. So I said to myself, again, I had no clue what I was doing. I said, I'm going to see gold and oil prices go up because of this. I started playing the futures markets, and it was about 32 years old. And I turned a $10,000 bet into almost $750,000.
Wow.
I lost most of it. I ended up with like about 150 was when time was over in the early 80s. But that's when I became a trend forecaster. I didn't take sides on anything. I looked at the facts. Going back to gold and oil, going back to 1970s, late 1970s. Fast forward 2024. What's going on now in Israel is unprecedented. This is way beyond the overthrow of the Shah in the late 70s. This is big. And it is only going to escalate. People ask me, why would they do this? Why would Netanyahu? Why do you ask a crazy person why they're crazy? As you said earlier, before you said politicians, what are you talking about politicians? How about jerks, narcissistic freaks, whatever? These people are out of their mind. They're out of their mind. Oh, no, I'm your leader. You listen to me. I'm in charge. You have no damn right to think for yourself. Anything you believe in is misinformation. Only I tell you what to do.
Which is true.
It's true.
It's true what's going on. You will think that most Americans will wake up and sort of take stand as far as no. The country should be run by the people.
Absolutely.
That's how it ought to be.
Exactly. And again, it does not take a majority to prevail, but rather an irate, tireless minority keen on setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men and women. Samuel Adams. That's his quote. That irate Tyler's mind. I've had it. I've had it. I got some little jerk. Come over here and tell me what to do. Come over here and tell me what to do. Now try to make me do it. Calm down, Celente. You're still in kindergarten. Obey your politician. That's the mentality.
Nope. And well, you know what? And I will say this, that is us. That is you. And that is our viewers. Our viewers are absolutely tired of this.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that. There is that tireless minority that is saying enough of this.
Yeah, but
already.
at the same time, it ought to translate on the ground to some action of sort. Peaceful one, that is.
Of
I mean,
course.
Absolutely peaceful.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely
Yeah.
peaceful.
We advocate for that.
I launched a movement. I don't know if you know that, called Occupy Peace over a decade ago.
Yeah.
So it all has to be peaceful. But here's the deal.
Yeah.
You can't, as I mentioned before about the campaigns going on, you can't do it without any money. Every time I have one of these rallies, it costs me about between $30,000 to $40,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. How about, hey, Bezos? Oh, you just bought another, $500 million mansion or something? How about $1 billion out of your almost, what do you got, maybe $1 trillion? When you become $1 trillion, how about $1 billion apiece?
Yeah.
Hey, Musk, how about $1 billion? Hey, Gates, how about $1 billion? Hey, little Cookie. Hey, Cookie, how about, hey, Zuckerberg, how about $1 billion apiece? Screw you, Celente. How dare you talk about peace? By the way, this just happened to me March 11th. I was doing a show, and I read a quote from that guy Tusk, who's the prime minister of Poland, saying that the pre-war era is over and we have to prepare for war.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right?
His name's Donald Tusk.
And the whole world now is in danger because of what's going on in Ukraine, right? So going back, all of a sudden, I get off the air, 10 telephone calls from this crazy guy to my office saying he's going to kill me. Calling
What?
Me. Yep.
Oh my God.
Sent emails. 3 emails. I can't repeat the filth that this guy wrote. Italian, goy, on and on.
Yeah.
You have Judge Napolitano, who's a friend of mine. We do podcasts every week. He said, call the FBI. The FBI turned it over to the state trooper. We had the guy's telephone number, his email. Said the state troopers took a week to get 5 days to come and do anything about it. Emailed the district attorney, never responded to my emails. Had a former assistant district attorney contact the district attorney's office 5 times. Never got back to me.
Wow.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Hey, but I'm just a little guinea from the Bronx. You're an Italian goyim. We don't care.
Yeah.
We don't. My friends are all of my Jewish friends are totally opposed to what's going on in Israel.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to come out for peace. Do you have 2 assembly women running for office in New York State coming out as pro-Israel? The guy that's the congressman over here, pro-Israel.
Yeah.
Pro-Israel. You are not allowed to come out for peace. Again, the only way we're going to have a real peace movement is have money behind us.
Yeah.
Or a new political party. You can't do it without money. That's the system.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and so it's interesting that you brought up peace. And one of the big things that you've been talking about is that war is more or less our industry. The United States exports war. That's our largest industry.
Yeah.
And, I asked this question on one of our live streams, David, and that is, can the U.S. afford to stop the wars? Can the United States as a whole afford to stop wars? And my personal take, and Gerald, I'd love to hear yours too, is no. The United States can't actually afford to stop the wars. And if all of the wars stopped, what would happen to the United States economy? Because when we're looking at politicians or, whatever you like
Imbeciles.
to call them.
Idiots.
When we're looking at people coming out and
Yeah.
saying pro this, pro that, pro whatever,
Yeah.
they understand what's going on at a deeper level than the average American does. So what they say is, I am pro XYZ. We, weapons of mass destruction in Iraq,
Yeah.
whatever that is. That isn't really what they're saying. What they're saying is we need to keep the war machine going, because what else is the US going to survive off of? It's certainly not manufacturing.
Yeah.
It's certainly not technology. And not only is it none of those things, we don't have the upcoming infrastructure for that. We don't have the personnel coming for that. We don't have the building infrastructure for that. And so if the US stopped exporting war and peace really was how we lived, what would happen to the United States?
It's very simple. Instead of putting that $1.5 trillion or $1.3 trillion into the war machine, you put it into the country. Look at the third world infrastructure we have.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
It's true.
Yeah. Isn't it great? All you people down in Baltimore are happy with that little crummy bridge that came down like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you hit the Brooklyn Bridge like with that, it wouldn't have gone down. Look at the jump that they built. Again, you put the money. One of the Occupy Peace, the movement is to close the military bases overseas and bring the troops home, secure the homeland, and put the troops to work to rebuild our rotting infrastructure. Go back to the Great Depression, and they had the Work Progress Administration. We do the same thing with this money. We build look at the rail system in America. What a joke.
What rail system?
It's sad.
That's what I mean.
It's
They're
sad.
taking subways in New York as a night in Calcutta.
Oh, yeah.
Look at
They're pretty gross. It's pretty terrible.
So what I'm saying to you is that you put the money into development. You create then again, like Eisenhower said, that with the skills of the scientists are being lost.
Yep.
Suppose rather than putting the money into making more advanced weapons, are you worried about climate change? I got an idea. Let's really invest some big money to come up with a solution. Oh, you can come up with an atomic bomb, but you can't come up with something for a clean energy that really works rather than the garbage you're selling now?
Yeah.
So that's what you do with it. And you cut back on the taxes of the people. That's the other thing. You're stealing all this money from us.
Yeah.
That's true.
What did they just send it's about over $130 billion we sent to Ukraine?
Yeah.
Oh, but we'll give you a couple of $1 billion to fix that bridge over there. All you people in Maui, go to hell. Your place burned down, you should go to hell with it. We'll give you $700. Here, shut the hell up.
That was disgusting. That was disgusting how they handled that.
All right. And that's what I said to you before when you said politicians. You said, that's disgusting. That's disgusting. It's disgusting because they're disgusting little pieces of crap. That's why it's disgusting. That's you put out what you put in.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's all we have are disgusting, arrogant, self-centered jerks telling us what to do. Matter of fact, one of the covers of the Trends Journal, we had Democracy, DUHMOCKRACY. Yeah. An Idiot's Delight, showing pictures of Biden, Macron, Schultz, Sunak, showing the Idiot's Delight in front. How could you be so stupid to listen to these people?
Well, because you're told to. You're told to listen to people, right?
You're in kindergarten.
Yeah, exactly.
Time to take a nap.
No, go ahead, Gerald.
No, time to take a nap.
You're right. Well, what I was going to ask is the idea of, are we ever going to see the likes of Eisenhower anytime soon?
If the people unite, if we get the money to put together, the only way it's going to happen. The only way it's going to happen. It's in front of everybody's eyes. You can't make it happen without any money. Here, take a trip to Texas. Go back to the midterm elections not too long ago. A little boy of nothing, Beto O'Rourke, running for governor, lost. It only cost $100 million.
Wow.
Stacey Abrams over there in Georgia, another nothing of a nobody.
Yeah.
$100 million to lose.
Jeez. Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize, but we're in Texas. And so I did not realize that it took $100 million because, you see the signs everywhere and all of that, but $100 million.
Million.
Unbelievable.
That shows you how much.
That's what I'm trying to say. What we're talking about when we say $1 billion to put into a new, a real democracy, a real political party that supports the founding fathers, freedom of speech, all of the amendments. You leave these alone, man. Don't touch them. You're not changing anything. Yeah, it's only you can't do it without money. And that's the reality. Yeah. Again, the people could do it if there was somebody to put this together at the top and they got the media. Yeah, the average person would donate 10, 100, $200, here and there, $50. That could maybe happen like that. You can't do it without money. End of story. You can't do it. You're not going to get the media. You're not going to get the attention. You're not going to get anything. And they come after you. Again, I used to run political campaigns. Matter of fact, I designed and instructed a course called American Politics and Campaign Technology, how to run political campaigns. And I taught it at St. John's University in New York. So I've been at this a lot of years. I know how the game works.
Yeah.
And the reason I got to the top so quick was because the people that are in this whole system, they're the dumbest jerks you can find anywhere. These are people that suck into the system because they want to get somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's a long story how I got involved in it, which I won't go on the air. But anyway, you could beat them like that. You could knock them out like that if there was a support behind it.
Yeah.
Well,
it's because the issue. Well, I think the issue we are also having is the issue of trust. Who can we trust?
Who can we trust?
Especially if you are to donate money and give money, the trust element is a key. Yeah. And now we're seeing the establishments in Washington happen. Who would you trust?
Nobody. I wouldn't trust.
You need a new third party. None. No, you need a new third party. The last person I voted for president was Ron Paul.
Yeah,
I like Ron Paul.
That's the last one. I've spoken at his conferences, and so I really just did an interview with him this year. Yeah, I respect him very much. Do I agree with everything? No, but I agree on the major issues.
Yeah,
and that's the kind of thing that we need. We need a new movement. And by the way, my last peace conference I had last May, I had Dennis Kucinich here, who's running as an independent, and he's been for peace all his life in Ohio. But I'm saying that's how it can happen.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be a Kennedy. You could be an anybody. But it has to be a human being with the true passion of the human spirit, the American spirit, and the spirit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Someone that's into the highest they can be as you keep trying to get better. And again, I want to make this clear. I pull a lot of crap in my life. I'm not the same as I was a kid. Right. The thing is, you got to get somebody that's been through life, that's seen it, and say, okay, this is enough. This is where we have to go.
No,
one of the interesting, I appreciate that you just said that about the experience, about a leader with experience, because, I absolutely do not agree with everything that China does. I think there's a lot of things that they do very poorly, including the zero COVID. That was insanity, right? But one of the things that Xi Jinping said is that when he was a kid, he lived through mass famines. He lived through mass starvation. And so he said that one of his goals was to make sure that didn't happen again. And to his credit, the amount of people that China has brought out of poverty is substantial.
Unbelievable. Like I said, the 21st century is a Chinese century. They slowed it down with this COVID.
Yeah.
And again, but you look at China's GDP before they came into the World Trade Organization, it was going up. But once they got in there, that thing just skyrocketed.
Yeah.
And again, it's we're in a. Again, we need a new way. There's no way that it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse if we don't have a real change in the society. Once upon a time, There was a thing called the Renaissance that followed
Oh.
the Black Plague.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
63% of Europe was wiped out, 60% or whatever the numbers are. And the people said, the Italians, alla Romana, all'antica, in the manner of the Romans and the ancients, to describe the quality of their work.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
that's what we need to bring back.
Yeah.
The American spirit that was, you know, a Renaissance and the real jazz. I have a photograph of my parents, may they rest in peace, 1934 wedding. My father worked in a fish store. My aunts and uncles, they worked in factories and construction workers.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the way these people are dressed and what they look like. The Bezos, the Buffetts, the Gates, the Zuckerbergs, they couldn't come close to what the Americans used to look like.
Yeah.
Google this thing up if you have to get off the air. Put in Soundies. Go to YouTube. Soundies, Soundies, Black music of the 1940s.
Mm-hmm.
Woo! Oh, and talking about the subway, first song is Take the A Train. Take the A Train to Sugar Hill in Harlem. That's where all the jazz was going on. And the cats were singing, and the chicks are dressed up hot with dresses on. And you look at the 1940s and the class and style of these black cats, man. And that was the American spirit. It was up. And when I was a young guy, once upon a time, they had grocery stores, hardware stores, stationery stores, drug stores. Now they're chains.
Yeah.
Yes.
The chains own it all. Oh, matter of fact, with the chains own it all, the Lowe's, the Home Goods, yep. Chains own everything. Put them all out of business. Staples. Now let's go back to the banking crisis and look at other things. You have these big venture capitalists. Again, going back to that Wall Street on Parade, they came out with an article that these venture capitalists, just a few of them, own over 10% of the banks. Just a couple of venture capitalists.
Yep.
So going back to what are they going to do when this thing goes down?
Right.
Hey, we're in charge. Print up more money. Go on, print.
Yep.
Print.
Yeah.
The more money they print, the deeper the dollar goes, and the higher gold goes.
Wow.
We're in for a really interesting ride over the next decade.
Well,
But
at the
we're here
same
for a
time,
decade. I'm serious. World War III's begun.
Mm-hmm.
It's begun. And again, you know what Stoltenberg said. You know what Tusk is saying. You're saying what Macron's saying. You're saying you hear what America's saying. We're building our military-industrial complex. The money's coming in. No, it's wartime.
Yeah.
Wartime in front of everybody's eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is where Americans needs to really get it, because they can't be just assuming the government's going to do the right thing. The government ain't gonna
absolutely
be
not.
doing the right thing.
Absolutely. They'll maybe do the right
Morons
thing
don't
by
do the
themselves.
right thing. The government. That's what I said to Judge Napolitano. We just did an interview. It's on Gerald Celente. It's on the channel. When he was blaming the government. I said, you keep using the word government, Judge. It's not. That hides the truth of what it is. It's morons and imbeciles. Why don't we call it what it is? Rather than calling it a government.
Yeah.
That's actually a very good point, because foundationally, the government is run by people. And for the most part, we actually don't know, we as a whole population, we don't really know who all of those people are. And it's very interesting where a big thing that's come out recently, and this isn't really something we can talk about on YouTube and still be okay. But there was recently a decision that he had made that outraged a lot of people. If you guys have been paying attention, you know what decision that is. And he came out and he said, I didn't do that.
Yeah.
He doesn't know. He doesn't know what he's doing and he's not doing. He doesn't know what's being put out in his name. But this is the front person. This is the face person that the rest of everyone can look at and say, well, it's this person's fault. This person is the one doing all of these things. He's not doing anything.
When in reality, there is some hidden hand behind closed doors that doing.
And we don't know who they are. They're not elected. And they have been running things. Henry Kissinger just passed away, right? Henry Kissinger just passed. And he was known for influencing behind the scenes. Nobody ever elected Henry Kissinger.
Yeah.
That
right.
wasn't an elected official. And look at how much he affected in the world.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, look at that little clown that just left Victoria Nuland.
Victoria Nuland, absolutely.
I mean, look. I mean, how could anybody look up to these people? Yeah, this was our magazine, by the way, back in 2014. So happy that guy looks.
Wow, look at that.
Oh, wow.
That's the United States overthrow of the democratically elected government of Viktor Yanukovych in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And this is an article
Washington is driving the world.
to the
Yeah.
final war.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
we talk about Victoria Nuland.
Oh, what's she
Ukraine
used to
presented
look
the perfect opportunity for Washington to advance its hegemonic agenda. In a speech at the National Press Club last December, meaning December 2013,
13. Yeah.
Assistant Secretary of State Victoria Nuland boasted that Washington had invested $5 billion in non-governmental organizations, NGOs, in Ukraine for the purpose to, quote, teach democracy.
Oh,
Wow.
wow. What great teachers we are.
Right? Teach them. That's Victoria Nuland passing out cookies and candy in Maiden Square, along with John McCain. The overthrow brought to you by the United States.
To teach them democracy.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. The
Well-
most corrupt nation in Europe, according to the European Union. And the latest poll out of Ukraine, 89% of the people are concerned about corruption in Ukraine. The Ukrainians are concerned about corruption. So that $5 really paid it off.
So one of the things that obviously nothing about this is funny, okay, but you laugh so you don't cry. So one of the things I thought was most interesting about the export of democracy is freezing the elections in Ukraine. That was maybe the most democratic thing they could have possibly ever done is freeze those elections.
Yeah, it's wartime. Yep.
Yeah, Ukraine is as corrupted as, it's done for. So, and speaking of what you mentioned about the trans journal for that article, Gerald, I want just our viewers to know that you publish the journal article, the trans journal regularly, and we do have a link here for you guys. If you truly want to know the truth, if you want to know the facts, this is what Gerald works on a regular basis. You might want to check it out at you see the link over there. And if you want to get a discount on it, which you will get a 10% discount on that if you enter the code GEO. That's part 2. And I am a member there. I read the stuff.
We do.
And you know me, guys. I don't sugarcoat things, and I don't just say whatever. If I didn't believe in this, I won't say it. That's how I operate, and you know this. It's factual. You will learn a lot if you subscribe to this journal, Trans Journal. Very, very interesting. I mean, the last one I looked at was about over 100. Let me pull it up right here, because this way you guys have the facts in front of you, and I'm going to share the screen with you. So
wait, can we share this, Gerald?
Can we share this, Gerald?
Yeah.
I don't know if it came out yet.
Let me share it here. So this way.
And while David is doing that, Gerald, will you tell us a little bit more about your Occupy Peace movement in case people are interested in that?
Yeah, you go to occupypeace.com, and you find out more about it. And we're going to have another rally coming up. And as for the Trends Journal, I've never worked harder in my life. It used to be a quarterly, then it went to a monthly, and now it's a weekly. And from high-tech science to AI to technocracy to geopolitics to economics, we're giving people everything we can. A whole section on AI now. And it costs the grand total with the discount about $2.50 a week.
Yeah.
The Wall Street Journal has turned into crap. It's $5 a day. And the New York Times, we're hardly getting any trend information. Matter of fact, we have to work much harder now, because what we do in trend forecasting is we look for what's being reported. And we go all over the world to find out what they're different. So if we're talking about, for example, the Israel war, we subscribe to Haaretz. We go to Again, we pay to go there. We go to Times of Israel, Jerusalem Post, and then we go to IRNA, the Iranian ISNA, Tehran Times. We go Al Jazeera. We go all over the world to find, all right, what do they say? And then we say, here is our trends analysis, a whole separate section. So you know it's not propaganda. Our trend forecast, where we see it going and what you might want to do or not want to do. We don't tell you what to do. The motto is think for yourself. So going back, now we have to work so much harder to find economic data because it's not being reported.
Yes.
Like you could go to the Wall Street Journal on Saturday, which is $6 a day, for their wrap up of the week. They don't tell you what happened in Asia or the European markets. That's how bad it's gotten.
Wow.
And you need that information.
Yeah, I know. I need the data so we could figure out where this thing is going.
Yeah.
And so we have to work much, much harder to find the data. And we're giving, again, you know, you see what you got, you know. If you don't like it, you get a 30-day money back guarantee.
Yeah. Well,
by the way, you could listen to it too, and it comes in different languages.
Great.
Oh, I
didn't know that, Gerald.
The journal itself.
That's great. Well, this is why, guys, that's what I'm saying. I'm sharing this screen with you here to just highlight to you this one here. That was which I looked at. I read through it. And you know me, I will go through the detail. For example, I'm going to take you to page 132. Yeah, all the way to 132 to address, for example, geopolitics, the geopolitical issues. It's right here. I'm going to show it to you quickly. Page 132. You go to, for example, to page 82. It's talking about Turkey. And you all know what's going on with Turkey. Their inflation, by the way, went up to 68%. Jeez. You go, for example, to page 101, and it talks about the markets. You know, and this is what I'm saying, guys, is I do believe in this. And if I didn't, you know me, you know how I am. But again, truth matters. Facts matter. I will not read any other newspaper here in the US because I don't trust them. Simple as that.
And you shouldn't.
No. So this is something you guys want to take a look at. There is the link on the screen there. Just enter that code GEO and you get a discount for that one. So
cool.
Well, Gerald, I want to give you the last word, a word of advice or something that our listeners can get sort of to start to think about.
Okay. Number one, get in the best shape you can, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. You're in the fight for your life. And if you're not in the best shape, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, you're not going to fight the best fight you can. And again, when I say fighting, I'm not talking about, you know, hand to hand. By the way, I had my own school. I taught a close combat for a lot of years. So, you know, but you don't want to get in a fight. I don't care how good you are, whatever you are, but you're in the fight for your life. And the higher spirit you get, the better you can do. And to try to do something positive every day. And if you can help anybody that you can that needs help in any way, try to help. I had a friend of mine, you know, his wife was not doing well. You know, every day, not every day, but, you know, throughout a couple of days a week, on and on, how's she doing? You know, and I pray for her. You know, I hope things just try to make the person any way you can help somebody. It's lifting somebody else's spirits, lifting your spirit. And the higher our spirit goes, the higher we rise. And we're in the fight for our lives. So in order to win that fight, you know, we have to be in the best shape we can, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And, you know, going back to the Trends Journal, by the way, the more subscribers we have, the more we can do. Yeah. And, you know, and I don't mean in terms of what we're putting out, we can't put out more than this. I mean, we're at the peak. We don't want to put out, over 170 pages. You know, we don't want to overload it. But what I'm saying is the more people that learn about what's going on, have the facts and know what's going on, the more it's going to push them into more positive ways to prepare, prevail, and prosper in the future.
Yep.
Indeed.
And we have a very similar mission. We would like to get as big as we possibly can, because our viewers our viewers, you are the ones who are out there making those changes in the world.
Yeah.
And and one of the things I actually tell our viewers regularly is, go be the wealthy people, go be the rich and powerful, because the people like you are the ones that we actually need in power. So I really appreciate your message.
Indeed. Well, thank you so much, Gerald. We truly, truly appreciate you carving out time for us here. To the viewers, this is something you're not going to find or hear about anywhere else. This is why we were so excited once we found out Gerald literally carve out time for us. We couldn't wait. And we will have Gerald back here on the show. Once again, he's a busy man. Whenever his schedule permits, we certainly will have him here again. So thank you so much, Gerald. Truly, truly appreciate you, man, and appreciate what you do.
And thank you both for all you do. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for having us on. And, you're doing what needs to be done to help change this in a positive way. So thank you.
Thank you so much. So, as always, guys, I hope you find this very informative. And remember, prepare yourself for a changing world order. Till next time. Bye-bye.